Hey guys, Chicken Fire Barbecue here. We're gonna do a little brisket talk today. So I've teamed up with Royal Oak this year. I'm a competition cook down here in Texas. So we're putting on a little series for them on brisket. You know, different parts of the country do brisket different, especially in competition. Down here in Texas, we typically cook the whole brisket meaning the flat and the point. So I'm gonna give you a couple of my tips, my tricks, as far as what I look for in a brisket when it comes to brisket selection. This will be the same if I'm cooking, it doesn't matter if I'm cooking in the backyard or a competition. When I'm out evaluating and putting briskets in my grocery cart, I kind of run through these same kind of checks, and like I said, right now we're not really cooking a whole lot in competition because of the coronavirus. So I've got quite a few briskets. I've got a Wagyu laid out here that I'm fixing to trim up and cook, but I'll talk to you guys and tell you exactly what I went through to get to this brisket, because just like anything else, garbage in, garbage out, you need to start with a good quality product if you want to have a shot at winning. So whether that goes in the backyard, if you're trying to impress your friends or cook a moist, tender brisket, doesn't mean you have to get a Wagyu. You can definitely do it with a choice or a prime, but we'll run through them, and hopefully you guys will take something from it. So anyway, let's run that intro. Talking brisket, so I'm gonna give you my tips as far as what I go through, what I look for, and how I get to where I've decided on a brisket and it's the one I'm gonna cook in competition. I'm usually, like I said, we're down here in Texas, so briskets, primes are pretty cheap, and sometimes even the Wagyus in the local supermarket, they're not that much more expensive. So the USDA, they start out with selects on the bottom, choice in the middle, and then prime. So you got select, choice, and prime. Those are your three options. And when I'm in the grocery store, I'll give every brisket a chance that's in that freezer, because sometimes these guys in the grocery store, they'll mislabel them, and you might find a real marble brisket that's marked select, and you kind of gotten away with one. So that happens quite a bit. Like I said, these guys are in the back throwing stickers on meat, and I guess it's easy to get confused and mislabel stuff. So if you know what you're looking for, sometimes you can steal a good prime on a select rate. So, but again, the grades of brisket as far as the USDA, that's not the end all be all. I mean, that's just a start. They don't actually grade. The USDA doesn't actually grade the actual briskets themselves. So I think the brisket grade comes off of the ribeye, so whatever they've marked the ribeye, that's what the brisket gets tagged as. So it's just an indicator. It's not by any means the end all be all. Some of the main things that I look for, and I've got a brisket here, I'll show you, we'll kind of walk around it and I'll show you the spots that I look for. But it's all about fat. Fat equals flavor. So the more intermuscular fat, the more places I can see intermuscular fat, the better off I feel the brisket's going to cook. The more tender it's going to be, the more juicy and the more flavorful it's going to be. So we'll show you what I'm talking about with this brisket here. All right, guys. So when I'm checking out a brisket, first and foremost, I want a sizable brisket. Now, my usual first check is what grade is it. Now this one is a Wagyu. So I had it in the freezer. I'm gonna cook it today, but competition circuit's kind of on hold right now. So I've got several briskets, and for the most part, most of them are Wagyus. So I'm gonna run this, that way we've got something to eat. But my first and foremost is the grade. After I've kind of eyeballed the grade, then I start looking at this intermuscular fat. And I'll look on the top side of the brisket. This is your fat cap underneath. Underneath there's your fat cap. This is the top side. And I'll start looking to see if I see all those little strands, all the little intermuscular fat. That's what I'm looking for. And this one you can see it's marbled real well. All the way down here, I mean, this is the leaner end of the brisket, and it still has some nice intermuscular fat. So That's the main thing I'm looking for. I'm also looking on the edges. If I can look through the Cryovac and see on the edge how much it has, you know, if it's got some good intermuscular fat on the edge right in there, then I'm definitely, that's a keeper. The briskets that are just red across the top, you don't see any fibers, them are the ones that I'm leaving behind. So we'll get this one open up and you'll even be able to see it more in detail here in just a second. All right, so we'll get a glove on here. And when I open them up, I always flip them over. I get them from the back side. We'll just, you know, part of it is if I accidentally cut this, it's not as big a deal as if I cut the top, you know. I don't want to gouge in the top. I'll try to yank this sucker out and try to leave the juice inside the bag. So again, you can see a lot closer at that fat I was talking about. You know, I'll show you the part I was talking about on the edges there. Let's see. I mean, granted, down here, you can see some of this fat down here towards, like I said, this is the flat end. The point's over here, and it's usually filled with fat, but we'll give you a look-see at this trim job real quick. Alright guys, got the brisket back in the house. Just wanted you to have a look at it. Once it sits up, you know, some of those knife marks just kind of even out as it sits. And I'll usually retrim it in the morning as well. You know, I'll inject it and get it all pumped up on the Friday night, and then Saturday morning right before I put it on the grill, right before I season it, you know, if it kind of flattens out a little bit, I'll give it a re-injection. Anyway, hope you guys picked up something. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Appreciate you. Peace.